What is up, you guys? Welcome to Illumination Lab. My name is Justin, and today I'll show you how I made this Art Deco themed room easily in Cinema 4D and Redshift. In this video, I'll go over the references I use, how I quickly built the scene, and the lighting I used to bring it all together. I'm excited to show you guys this one. We're going to have a fun one with this one today, so without further delay, let's get into it. Alright, so kicking off references. So for the references I use today, I primarily use these three references here. So I'll start with the one on the right. What I liked about this one specifically is there's primarily one light source, and so you could see that light is coming in through the window, and that allows the scene to be filled with a lot of really cool like highlights and shadows through kind of casting it throughout the room here. And then what I also liked as well is how mute it is. It's very much a neutral color all around, and so you can even see that here in the plants as well. And then of course you have all these really cool intricate designs on the wall, which kind of expresses that Art Deco feel. So rolling over to this middle one here, again, something very similar. We have a light source coming out from the right side of the view here, and it's of course casting some really cool shadows and makes it a little bit more dramatic here. And then again, what I like is the intricate designs on the wall here. It's something that's very different, and I feel like it's I feel like it's hard to find anything similar to this in actual real life. So I think it's a cool intricate design, and then definitely more of a modern impression of Art Deco, but still Art Deco itself. And lastly, we have our reference here on the very left. What I liked about this one is it has a nice complement between the black and the gold. It's very dynamic and also vibrant at the same time. With this one, you do have a light source coming in from the left, and then of course over top you have that small light source as well. So I chose this one just because it has a really nice complement between the black and the gold, and then of course you can kind of see a little bit more color in this one, and their use of this really cool marble as well too. So these are the three references I used to create this scene. In this scene today, I'm going to be making something that can be easily created, no modeling that you have to do at all. So what we're going to do today is we're going to hop into both Kit Bash here, and we're also going to hop into Quixel Bridge. So we'll hit Quixel Bridge first, then Kit Bash, pick up some of our assets, and then I'll see you over there in Cinema 4D. Alright, so we're in Quixel Bridge here. What I'm going to bring in is these two marble textures here. I specifically like these because they're going to be very similar to our reference we just saw on the very left, with all the marble intricacies and the pattern as well. So I'm going to pull in these two here and see if we can do something cool with them. Of course, I'm going to put these two marble colors onto a cube here, and then we'll use that later on to bring over these assets into our actual file that we're working in. Alright, so jumping into Kit Bash here, as you guys can see, there is a lot of different kits here. So what we're going to do is go straight into the Art Deco kit here. And like I said, you do have a lot of options here. And then as we jump over to Cinema 4D, I'm just going to connect our kit bash to Cinema 4D, and I'll be using the Redshift standard material for this. So, and then as I jump back into kit bash here, I'm just going to import some of these assets here. Really what I want to do is get some of these ornaments here that kind of express that Art Deco feel a little bit more. And then there are some really cool other ornaments and just decor in general. So I'll just pick a few of these here, and this column looks pretty nice too. So pick some of these here, and then we'll import it into Cinema 4D and get going. Alright, so we're in Cinema 4D. You can see our assets have imported correctly here. And then what I'm just going to do is go into Grayscale Gorilla, go and pick a curve type here. And then what I'm going to do is just move it off to the side here, adjust it so we have more of a room look, so all the corners are properly cornered. So and then I'm just going to bring down the size of these assets here to kind of fit the room a little bit better. And then what I'm going to do is just pull off each one of these assets here off to the side so we can just clearly see what they look like. And then what we'll do is just kind of apply it to the room as needed. So but first, what I'm going to do is bring in a Redshift camera. Typically I'll do this to just get a general view of what we're looking at. So when we pop up the Redshift render view, we have a camera that's in the proper position and we don't have to adjust it. It's right where we want it to be. So first off, I'll take this ornament here. Right now, I don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but we're just going to play around with these assets here and kind of adjust them to the room to see if we could get something cool here. And then I'm liking this column here in the middle. It's kind of a nice anchoring point to the room. And then what I'll do is bring in this other column as well, and then just kind of have that in the corner section. So that's looking pretty nice so far. I'm just going to adjust this ornament here just to make sure it's both flush on the wall and then also lined up properly, so it looks a little bit more realistic. So we'll take our time with this one and adjust it as needed. And that's an interesting look, removing the black here. So we'll try that out and see what it looks like, and then we can always adjust it later. So, and then we'll move this ornament from behind our pillar here, and then we'll just kind of adjust it here. I'm just going to bring up the curve a little bit so it's nice and on the wall. And so that's a pretty interesting look so far. And then we also have these ornaments as well. They kind of have a nice curvature to them, and so I think they could look pretty cool here at the bottom of our column here, just to kind of help bring a little bit of a different look to our focal point here. And so that looks pretty good there. So next up, what we have to do is create a light source. So I'm going to use this ornament here. What's cool about this one is it has this circular hole in the middle. And so what we're going to do is actually punch a hole through our wall here, just so we can get some light coming in throughout. And then I'll take this other ornament here and just apply it to the other side of the wall, just to kind of keep it as balanced as possible as far as what our room's going to look like. And then I'm just going to adjust some of these ornaments here. And then I'm going to copy and paste again to make sure that, you know, our room is balanced. And then, of course, we're using this middle column as our focal point. So we're essentially just kind of mirroring one side to the other side here. And then as I pull up the Redshift render view here, I'm going to jump into my Redshift camera and again just kind of adjust it to the exact composition that I want. And then I'll use the default camera to kind of fly around the scene here. So next up, I'm going to use a cube and we're going to use this as a ceiling. Since I'm not going to really have a ceiling in my composition or any of my render shots, I'm just going to throw on a cube on the top. Doesn't have to be too fancy. Really what I'm trying to do with this is just mitigate as much light as possible. So if we ever do throw in more lights, we can make sure that light is not coming in from the ceiling. So alright, so since we're on the topic of lights, what I'm going to do is bring up a Redshift area light here. And then what I'm going to do is just bring it over next to where our hole is going to be. And then kind of adjust it right to the circular area here. And then I'm just going to change the exposure and then bring in more of a warm color with the lights, just because that warm color is going to really complement what we have going on inside of the room. And then to create our window effect here, what I'm going to do is bring in a cylinder, and then I'm just going to adjust the cylinder size and segments to the circle here. And it's really important to make sure that your rotation segments or even sometimes your height segments are up, because it's going to give you a natural circular look without any bumps or curves around the sides. So we're just going to make sure that's an actual circle that we're working with. And then I'm just going to bring in a bool, and then we're going to throw in that cylinder and then our curve as well too. And then immediately in the Redshift render view, we see the immediate effect of that light coming in here. It's looking pretty good so far. What I'm going to do to kind of make it a little bit more interesting is I'm going to bring in a Redshift spotlight here. And then I'm just going to adjust it to our window here. And then I'm going to go into the Grayscale Gorilla library, and we're going to pick out a cool looking gobo here to kind of give us a cool look here. Something that's a little bit more dynamic. As you can see here, there's a lot of options for windows and plants, so you can make some really cool effects without having to, you know, kind of produce it yourself. So it saves you a little bit of time and allows you to fully have control of what the light is kind of pushing out. So and as I select this gobo, it's kind of hard to see it here initially. And so what I'm going to do is just go over to our area light here and then completely turn it off. And so we can see what exactly the light is casting on the room. And then I'm just going to increase the exposure here and then adjust the lights as needed. Now I'm going to turn on the area light again, reduce down the exposure so it's a little bit darker, and then we're really going to play with our spotlight here and see if we can get a cool, almost like window effect casting upon our far wall here. So we'll just play around with it for a little bit and see what kind of a cool effect we can get. And then to fill up the room a little bit more with lights, what I'm going to do is just copy and paste our area light here, move it over, and turn it towards the scene here. And then just kind of expand it just so it's kind of filling up the room a little bit, but not too much. So it's not completely dark, but we still have ways of us to focus a little bit more on our highlights from our window here. But again, we're just kind of filling the room so it seems a little bit more natural. And that's looking good so far. We may adjust it here later, but I'm kind of liking how that looks so far. And then I have noticed these ornaments are slightly off the wall, so I'm just going to adjust them real quick again to make sure they're flush against the wall, just to make it as realistic as possible. And then we can always just kind of change or enhance the mood here by bringing in a Redshift environment. If we just kind of play with our settings here, you can see in the Redshift render view what kind of effects it makes. And so you can see it kind of brings more of a haziness to the scene, and then you can kind of adjust it as needed depending on what exact look you're trying to go for. And then if I just kind of crop this out here so it's just rendering this box, you can kind of see the effect of the Redshift render view a little bit more, and it kind of creates that haziness or the atmosphere look, so it's a little bit more again realistic. Or if you're trying to go more for like a stylized look, you can always kind of play around with that, and you guys can see what you can get from that. Alright, so jumping over to our other file here, I'm just going to bring in our cubes and then just kind of adjust it to the scene. To actually make the floor somewhat a little bit more interesting, what I'm going to do is bring in a tube here And then what I'm going to do is try and make a cool looking pattern here. So I'm just going to try out this look real quick and then kind of see what kind of results we can get with it. And then of course, as we jump into our material here, we can always change the UV length here, so we can adjust it. So we can always change our scale as needed. If it is a bigger object, we can reduce down the scale. If we're a little bit more up close, we can increase the scale to kind of tell the viewer that, you know, we're working within a specific scale here. So, and as I pull up the Redshift render view, it's interesting, but I think the black on the bottom is a little much. And so I think with the white here, the white will be able to bounce off that light a little bit easier, and it can kind of fill the room a little bit more. We'll take our black marble here and apply it to our tube here, and what we'll do is make a cool ring effect here. So it's not just all this white marble, but we also have this cool little circle figure here. So I'm just going to adjust the circles here just so one is inside of the other. Yeah, that looks pretty good so far, so we'll leave it as is. Next up, I'll jump into the Redshift library here, and I'm just going to bring in a chair here. And we also need to bring in a coffee table as well. And then what we'll do here is similar to our references, make a chair and table our little focal point here. And then I'm just going to adjust the size of both the chair and the table to make sure that it's exactly right to scale. So and then what I'm going to do is just take off the material of our chair here. And then I'm just going to copy and paste our chair and rotate this other chair around. And then let me pull up the Redshift render view and see exactly what this is looking like. So as I pulled it up here off camera, I was playing around with the look of the room a little bit. As you can see, I brought forward the ornaments here so you can actually see the black, and then the material that we got from the chair, since it is more of a leather dark color, I actually applied it to our wall here. So really we have this very dark wall that really doesn't bounce off any light at all. Just because, again, I want the focal point to be our chairs, the glass, and then having our different ornaments here as our nice backdrop. So really the black or the dark background here is really going to help our materials in the foreground really pop out a little bit more. So, and again, I'll just adjust some of our materials here to make them, again, a little bit more realistic and to make them kind of flush against the wall here. So. Next up, I'll jump into the Redshift library here, and I'll bring in a few glasses and a bottle, and then we're just going to throw this onto the glass table here. And then what I'm also going to do is bring in a vase as well and just adjust the scaling here. And then with these vase, I'm going to bring in a plant of some sort from Quixel Bridge, and kind of similar to our references where they had a few different plants, but the plants were a little bit more stylized where it had more of that white withered look. So we'll probably do the same thing here within the scene here. And then quickly, I'm just going to adjust our glass and our bottle here and make sure that our glass and bottle is actually sitting on the sitting on the coffee table here. The most difficult part of a glass table is making sure that if anything is on it, it is completely sitting on the table. It's not floating a foot above or a couple inches above. It's actually sitting on the table. So we'll just zoom in here and really adjust these to make sure that they're sitting on the table as they should. So. All right, so I'm going to jump into Quixel Bridge, grab this plant real quick, and I will see you back here. All right, so I went ahead with this plant here. I'm just going to reduce down the size and then adjust it and rotate it to make sure that, you know, some of the plant isn't clipping into our ornaments here. And that looks okay so far, and then I'll just bring up the Redshift render view to see exactly what it looks like. And since it comes from Quixel Bridge, it does import like this. So what I'm going to do is just completely turn off luminance here, and that's going to bring in that color. And then I'm just going to go over, select the white here, and bring down the weight by 50%. So by doing that, you could see that our plant here is a little bit more withered. It's a little bit of a wider color to it, and so that's a cool look that kind of goes with our overall scene here. So next up, we're just going to put a color on the vase here. So I'm just going to play around with a few different colors and see what we can get. Actually, I'm going to leave it as is, and then I'm just going to copy and paste our vase and our plant here, and then just move it to the other side of the room, again, to kind of keep the scene balanced here. As we look at the scene, it is looking pretty good so far. What we need to do is just bring in a material for our chair here. So what I'm going to do is jump into Grayscale Gorilla. I'm going to throw on this abstract material just because it gives you a very light color, almost like our white color, but it has a little bit of texture to it, so I think that will that'll look pretty nice. And then we'll just throw this white on top of our vases here. And then what we'll do is just bring in a area light, and what I'm going to do with this area light is I'm going to apply a sky to this light here. I'm just going to go online, pick out a specific sky I like, and then just apply it as a texture to our area light here. And then as you can see immediately on the right, you can see the sky and a few clouds as well. It is slightly blown out, but you can still kind of see that it has more of a sky look instead of having just a black area here. So it makes it seem a little bit more like a window than it actually is. Alright, so wrapping up the video here. With this video, I just wanted to show you guys how it is extremely possible to create a scene without even having to know how to model. And so there's a lot of different tools and resources out there, not just the ones I showed you guys today, but there are plenty other ones where you can either import assets, or there's ways of quickly being able to develop the scene. So if you're someone who's in a time crunch, or if you're a little bit newer and you're not where you want to be at as far as your modeling goes, you can always find a way to find other models or assets, bring them in, and then you can always adjust the color or change it as needed. So there's a lot of ways to customize it, and then there's a lot of ways to make a scene look good, again, without knowing how to model. So just like that, that's the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you enjoyed it, please let me know either in the comment section or like the video. I'm still trying to figure out what exactly you guys want to see, so I'm just kind of throwing out a lot of different options just to see what you guys are interested in. If you guys want me to do something for you as far as, you know, helping you build a scene, or if you're stuck with something, feel free to reach out and I can either go through it in a video, and I can kind of show you guys how to go about a few of these processes. So, but just like that, that's the end of the video. You guys have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you on the next one.